Hi, this is Adrian.
And I'm Carrie.
And for this episode of the Scent Library, we're going to talk about the Dior Experience.
Yep.
Yes.
So to start off Dior, for men, we're going to start off with Dior Homme, which means men. So if you have delved into this line of Dior fragrances, you've probably gotten pretty confused because they started out in 2005 with Dior Homme, and ever since then they've been branching off with it with lots of other flankers that sometimes have a lot to do with the original and sometimes turn off in some other directions entirely. So we'll go over 5 fragrances from the Dior Homme line. Not necessarily maybe what everybody might think are the most important ones, but a couple of them are, and then others that are flankers that are kind of relevant to today. The first one is the Dior Homme Original in 2021. And the funny thing is, it's not the original Dior Homme.
Why did they call it original?
I don't know. I even looked at the notes and compared them from this one to the 2005 edition, and they're not at all the same. This one basically lists cardamom, iris, and vetiver. It's a nice combination. And it smells good. It's soft. It's, it's not too overpowering or anything. It's kind of formal and pretty. It has nothing to do with the original one. The original one doesn't have any of the same notes except iris in it. So I guess they just decided to be original with this new one and come up with like 2 extra notes to throw with the classic iris and call it original. But it's not the original. It looks kind of like the original because of how the cap and the bottle is. And the thing that would tell you right away that it's not the original one is it has a black straw in it instead of a silver one like the original from 2005. But they're really nothing the same. Now, on the other hand, it is a nice one.
Okay.
What do you think of it?
Well, I like its iris note. It smells like a makeup kit.
Yeah. And the makeup note, the iris note, is the thing that everybody always talks about with the Dior Homme line. And why do guys have some interest in smelling like a makeup bag? Who the hell knows? But it's a nice kind of a powdery, floral without being flowery scent. It's just kind of nice. I guess back in 2005 when the original version of this, they came up with it, they thought in some sort of avant-garde way that men would, have just been dying to get their nose in a woman's makeup bag and smell what it smells like. I personally don't know, but I do like how they introduced the iris note, and it became kind of a mainstay of fragrances on a kind of an increasing level ever since then, and a lot of fragrances feature it now.
Okay, so next
All right, now this one is probably a much better example of the Dior Homme line, what is really a nice formal scent and really rich and very compelling scent. This is Dior Homme Intense. It is from 2011. Now there's actually an earlier version of Dior Homme Intense that's slightly different, but this is the one that you can get now. The old one has been replaced, and this is what there is now. It has notes of lavender, iris, ambrette, which they also call musk mallow, pear, and then Virginia cedar and vetiver. So it has a really nice thickness sort of to it, but yet soft and powdery. It sticks with you a long time. It projects well. It's really probably one of the best from the line that you can still get on the market today.
Yes, also iris.
Yeah. What do you think of that one?
I almost think they don't have much of a difference, the original and this one, the Intense, because they are iris forward.
Right. The iris really comes through on them. And so that's probably kind of the common DNA of this fragrance line. But there are a few that don't actually feature the iris.
Okay.
So we'll go on to the next one, Dior Homme 2020. Now, all the bottles look quite a bit alike. There's subtle differences in sort of the darkness of the bottle, the darkness of the cap, things like that. Sometimes it has written on it what it is. Sometimes you have to really look at the bottles and figure it out by process of elimination. This one is Dior Homme 2020, and this is a reworking of Dior, and arguably it's not really very reminiscent of anything in the Dior Homme line prior to this. It's kind of like a lot of people think that this actually smells more like kind of a cousin of Sauvage.
Oh, okay.
It has a much fresher sort of a smell to it.
No iris.
Right. No. This one has bergamot, pink pepper, elemi, cashmere, cedar, patchouli, isoe super, vetiver, and musk. So when you kind of compare it with the Sauvage, like the original Sauvage EDT, it has a similar sort of a freshness, that spiciness with the pepper. It's certainly not, if you put them on your hand and smell one, smell the other, you can tell a difference, but you can tell that they are also sort of similar in their inspiration. So while this one has, the bottle of the Dior Homme line, a lot of people say it really doesn't belong in the Dior Homme line because it doesn't share the same sort of fragrance DNA, like none of the iris and the darker, sweeter smells and stuff like that, that this really probably should have actually been titled under something else. But with the success of the Homme line, that's probably what Dior was counting on, was marketing under Homme and getting a lot of people's attention. In the fragrance aficionado world, though, a lot of people really pushed back against this one because it doesn't smell like the other Dior Hommes. But honestly, on its own merits, it's actually a really nice scent. I like this a lot. It lasts for a long time. It projects. It's certainly kind of a crowd pleaser. A lot of people have liked this when I wear it. But I personally think it smells a lot more along the lines of like the Sauvage types of scents.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Okay. Now, this one is probably among the most beautiful of all the Dior lines. This is Dior Homme Parfum.
And it also has iris in it, but with oud.
Yes. So this one actually, when they reformulated this one back in 2014, they were thinking of trying to market it a little bit more to like a Middle Eastern crowd. So there is some notes that appeal a lot to the Middle Eastern market, like rose and oud. From the top, this one has iris, orange, leather, rose, sandalwood, ambrette again, oud, and cedar. Now, this one is really hard to find, especially here in the American market. Right now, if you try to order it online, the only place you can order it and have it mailed to you is within France.
Oh, wow.
So what a lot of people do is that are into fragrances and stuff, if they go over to France, they hit a Dior boutique or something there and try to see if they can catch it there. Or if you have somebody who who lives in France, have it mailed to them, shipped to them, and then they can ship it to you. But shipping from Europe is really expensive for fragrances. Anything flammable has to be packed a certain way and has to be inspected. And so, if you ship one bottle or 5 or 6, it's easily about the same price, around $40. So this one is probably the most sought after of the Dior Homme line right now.
Dior Homme Parfum.
Yeah, and it's really hard to come across. It used to be only like in, I think, a 70 or 80 ml bottle. This, I believe, is 100, but I got this ordering it from the Middle East.
Oh, wow, you went all the way there.
I didn't go all the way there, but I went there online to order it and have it shipped. Yeah, this bottle and the others that I have stashed away came from Dubai.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, so that one is probably the quintessential one for now, and it's not really exactly like the early 2005 one in the note lineup, but it's probably the most like the 2005 one in character. It's missing a few of those classic notes like the cacao from the first iteration of this, but it has some other interesting, nice notes in it that are definitely pleasing. Okay, and then this one's going to look really different. This is Dior Homme Cologne.
No oud and no iris either. No oud, no iris.
No, it has 3 notes. It basically has bergamot, grapefruit blossom, and white musk.
And what's funny about it, it's called Dior Homme Cologne, but it's for both men and women.
Yeah. It's a very fresh scent. What do you think about this one?
Definitely
you liked this
freshy,
one when you wore it.
Yeah, definitely freshy and definitely unisex. So, although why they call it Homme? Nope.
I don't know.
Nope.
I don't know. There's nothing in it that makes me think of it as an Homme line. It doesn't have anything in common with the others. It maybe has more in common with the new Dior Homme that I said smells like like a Sauvage cousin or something. But I like this one. It's a great freshie. I tried to see, it doesn't say on the bottle if it's an eau de toilette or EDP strength, so I'm assuming it must actually be a cologne strength. And I don't think this one lasts a long time. I've only worn it a few times and stuff, and because I got it during the winter. And
definitely a freshie.
Yeah, it's a freshie. I think you can kind of overspray this one. It's a nice one for warm weather and stuff. It doesn't overpower you. Okay, so let's move on then now to kind of an older one. Yeah, Dior was making perfumes as far back as in the 80s that they started selling over here in the United States. Even before that, I guess they were still selling stuff before the 80s, but the earliest one I think that we'll be talking about today is from the 80s. This is Dune Pour Homme.
Mm-hmm.
It's a woody floral musk, and it came out in 1997. It has notes of fig leaf, cassis, sage, basil, fig wood bark, rose and mignonette, sandalwood, cedar, tonka bean, and vanilla.
So fig.
Yeah, fig leaf.
Okay.
Fig leaf, yeah. So that's when I first had gotten this, I actually thought it was fig, and then when I got it, I'm like, it doesn't smell like fig, but I saw it was fig leaf.
Okay.
Because there's another one that we both enjoy that has fig
Yeah.
in it. We've talked about that one before. So this one, I honestly don't think I've ever worn it. I got it mostly because I knew that it's older and maybe disappearing soon. But you've worn it, haven't you?
Yeah.
How did you like it?
It's also kind of like a freshie, the way it smells.
Can I smell the strip? Yeah, that's nice. It's a fresh one. So, like I said, this one's from 97, and we'll now move on to another one that is fairly unknown these days. This one is Jules. Now, originally, Jules was released in 1980. So this is a redesign of the original. The original was came out in 1980, and it had a whole lot of notes. It was kind of like some of those other 80s ones where there's like 30 notes in it.
Yeah.
I started looking through it because I was trying to figure out who made this one, and then I saw it listed as the perfumer Jean Martel in 1980, and I thought, wait a minute, I thought this was from 2016, which is what this is, 2016, and I saw like a bajillion notes in it. Then I looked and saw the bottle was very different, and this one is from 2016 and only has a handful of notes. This one I don't know who the perfumer was, but they redesigned it, and apparently they kept some of the central notes from it, like herbal notes, cyclamen, fir, leather, and cedar. But then they changed up a lot of the other things, left out a huge trove of things that was in the original one that probably made it smell like kind of one of those dated sorts of scents from the 80s.
It smells like a classic fragrance
but
back in the day.
Yeah. One of the things I think that probably comes out to you is galbanum.
Yeah, it does.
Galbanum really kind of pops out in this one. It was not in the original one. But galbanum, herbal notes, cyclamen, hedione, black pepper, fir, leather, and cedar. Let me smell. Yeah, smells kind of reminiscent of some of the 80s colognes. I mean, not like it smells like Drakkar or something, but it has that character of kind of, this is definitely a man's scent. If women want to wear this, okay, they can be daring and stuff, but it kind of, to me, smells pretty masculine.
Yeah, it does.
In a good way. Let's see. Next, you can see that they were kind of into a certain bottle style during this time. This is called Higher Energy. There was another fragrance called just Higher that was similar to this one, but this one is a little bit more of a fresher take on Higher. And this one came out in 2003, and it has notes of juniper berries, pineapple, grapefruit, melon, mint, nutmeg, pepper, incense, cedar, vetiver, oak moss, sandalwood, musk, and labdanum. So that some of those top notes there make me sort of think of something that came out on the market maybe about 5 or 6 years later than this, and I think that's why I bought this one. Can I smell that? Yeah, it doesn't really smell like what I was thinking of. But with the pineapple and grapefruit sorts of notes and stuff and a few of the other things, it put me in mind, I think, when I was looking at this one, that it might have a sort of an Aventus character or predecessor sort of a thing to it. But I don't think it really smells
No, doesn't smell like
extremely
Aventus.
similar. It's a freshie, definitely.
Definitely freshy.
And I remember when I smelled this on you one time that I commented that I really liked it, but I couldn't remember what it was. And when you told me, I was like, oh, yeah. It's one of those that I've gotten because it was interesting and I felt like it might disappear because it's an older one, and put it up in the cabinet and forgot about it. I do that a lot. So yeah, a good freshie for summer. It's getting harder and harder to find that one. Here and there, if you look for it on some like online places, you can find it. But if you're interested in it, and the other one, Jules, you better grab them because they probably won't be around for a whole lot longer. Okay, now we're going to go to a real classic.
Eau Sauvage.
Not Sauvage, Eau Sauvage.
Yes.
So this one was originally created or launched back in 1966.
Yeah, and definitely tons of notes.
Lots of notes, yeah. People have commented that they think that the modern version of it has left some things out. I don't really know. I've never had an old bottle of this that actually was in good shape to smell it. I got a hold of one time, but I think it had turned bad and stuff, and it kind of smelled rotten, and so you can't really judge the old formula by something that probably had been sitting in the sun or too warm of conditions. This one, though, yeah, lots of notes. It has lemon, bergamot, basil, rosemary, a whole bunch of other stuff, jasmine, coriander, carnation, orris, patchouli, sandalwood, oak moss, vetiver, musk. The oak moss is supposed to be kind of one of the hinge notes of this, and this is why it definitely has been reformulated since the older days, because oak moss became a thing with the Fragrance Regulation Board, IFRA, that you can't use it except in trace amounts without listing it as allergenic. And so a lot of the houses reformulated and took out a lot of the oak moss. But the older versions of this were oak moss heavy, which it's hard to describe oak moss.
Kind of bitter.
Kind of bitter, yeah. Yeah, it definitely has one of those old-timey sorts of smells to it that if you were around back then to smell things that did use a lot of oak moss, you'd recognize it, but it's hard to really pull a description out. But it blends with other things and it kind of binds them and stuff, and so as they evaporate off of there, it gives it sort of a bitter sort of a smell to it. Then after that one, there's a redesign, a kind of a modern take on it in a parfum, the Eau Sauvage Parfum from 2017.
This one is a high on vetiver.
Yes. Yeah, this one has Haitian vetiver, bergamot, lavender, citron, and elemi. So a lot simpler note breakdown. It's a fairly heavy parfum concentration. So it's really definitely the mid notes like the vetiver and the base, the elemi hang around a lot longer and stuff. It sits a little closer to your body. This one is a harder one, I think, to wear in hot weather conditions, whereas the original Eau Sauvage that you can get today, which is not really the original, but the original one is easier to wear in higher heat situations.
This one is only like for nice weather days.
Nice weather days,
So
yeah.
fall or spring.
Yeah. And do you think of it more as a day or a night scent?
I think of it as a day scent, a day scent, not so much
Yeah.
night when it's like really cold.
Yeah,
or cooler.
I think of this as a kind of a nice occasion type of a thing to wear during like the daytime. I don't think of it really as a formal scent for something at night. Okay, let's move on then to Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit, yeah. People from the 80s will remember this one.
because of the asphalt
Right. The
introduction.
smell. Well, yeah, the petrol smell. A lot of people describe it as petrol or gasoline smell. It actually has a pretty prominent violet note, violet leaf note. And that can smell sort of petrol-like. Some people also say it smells like cucumbers.
Oh, okay.
Do you think that when you smell it?
It smells more like asphalt to me.
Yeah. So there's a lot of notes in this one. It has lavender, cedar, chamomile, orange, bergamot, hawthorn, violet leaf, cedar, sandalwood, carnation, jasmine, lily of the valley, leather, vetiver, patchouli, tonka bean, and more. It's got just tons and tons of notes, so it's hard to even remember all of those things. I smell mostly in it. I smell sort of the lavender, cedar, maybe a bit of bergamot or lemon, and the violet leaf, and I think like vetiver. So this one is a hard one to wear. I remember back in the day when this first came out that I hated it. And every time I smelled anybody that had it on, I just had to run the other direction. It's sort of an acquired taste, which is, I think, hard to recommend to somebody that, you pick up one of these, and because you may grow to like it, but I always wonder with fragrances that, like, at first when I smell them and I don't like them that much, what happens about other people? I mean, you may grow to like it after you get used to it and learn to appreciate it.
It's not one of my favorites, no.
It's been a hard one for me. I mean, you can see the bottle has very little used out of it, and that's between you and me. So it probably won't disappear very quickly. So there you go. And then they came out more recently. That one, by the way, came out in 1988. So that one's been around a while.
This one is easier to like.
This one's easier to like, and honestly, they don't have a whole lot to do with each other. That's what's kind of weird is that they don't. I don't even think the core notes of it smell all that close together.
You don't smell the petrol smell,
Right.
Right.
So it still has violet leaf. But it's like smoothed out with a lot of other notes. This one came out in 2014. This one has top notes of suede, licorice, and mandarin, with middle notes of violet leaf, rum, coriander, cumin, and then base notes of bourbon vanilla. So it's quite a bit different, I think, than...
It smells more like a drink.
Yeah. It does smell a little bit more boozy. The only things that it really has in common are mandarin and violet leaf. And then it has like suede versus leather in the other one, which I think they end up smelling about the same.
Potato.
Right, And then vanilla, bourbon vanilla versus tonka bean. Tonka bean to me usually smells kind of like vanilla. So when they say bourbon vanilla, it's still vanilla to me. It doesn't, the rum, I don't think you're going to smell, too much difference there. But yeah, there's not many notes that really are in common with it other than the violet leaf. And what things out there don't have something like bergamot or something, or some sort of a citrus smell to it. But I like this one. It's a lot easier to wear. It's not one of those that eventually you get used to it. So it's one that I think, you can pick it up and smell it, and within a minute or two if you like it or if you want to leave it. But it's not nearly as challenging or offensive as the Fahrenheit original. So this one, if you are interested in Fahrenheit and stuff, probably try this one first. The other one, it's going to be a lot harder for you to justify buying that, because you may not wear it as much as what the hype makes you think of it. It's still popular, and it almost always is sold out wherever you look for it, but this one is too. This one is really hard to find these days, and you almost never can get a discount on it. Okay. Now, everybody's favorite to either love or hate.
Sauvage.
What do you think about this one?
Well, definitely a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
It's easy to like, kind of sweet.
Yeah, it has something. So people in the fragrance community love to beat up on this one. And I think part of the reason is because it was so successful. It took everybody by storm back when it came out in like 2015. And it very quickly gained a big following. A lot of people liked it. It became a great gift fragrance for somebody to give to their loved one. So a lot of people were wearing it. A lot of people were rocking this out there. And so pretty soon, everywhere you turn, you're smelling Sauvage again, And so people that like to wear fragrance and stuff like that usually like to feel a little different, a little special. And this one feels a little overdone in the world at large. It's one that I love to smell on other people, but I don't like to wear it. And it's not because I don't think it smells good. It's just after I've had it on for maybe about 20 minutes, I stop being able to really notice it. But yet, if I get a whiff of it on somebody else, I usually like it. What are your thoughts on this one?
Just seems very popular.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Because you have a lot of collection of perfumes that would not wear it all often.
Yeah.
Just once in a while.
Yeah. Well, I've had this bottle since around 2015 or so it hasn't gone down all that much. After my initial fascination with it, I kind of went on to other things. But I like it. I pull it out and use it now and then, and it's one that I wouldn't give the bottle away and stuff, because I know I'll eventually wear through it, or most of it. But it's not one that I feel like I'm really special when I wear it. I feel like everybody, if they're really honestly, as far as like best-selling fragrances, this is one of the best-selling ones of all time for men's fragrances, and certainly one of the higher-selling ones in the last 10 years for Dior. So they got a great formula going there, and then they kept capitalizing on it, because this is the Eau de Toilette, the original. There's an Eau de Parfum, a Parfum, and an Elixir.
Okay.
All right, and
speaking of elixirs.
Yeah. And speaking of not having the Eau de Parfum or the Parfum, we'll go straight to the Elixir, because I chose not to buy the others because I already had the original one, and I skipped over the Eau de Parfum and the Parfums, because to me they were good, but I just didn't feel the need to spend the money for them, because you couldn't find much of a discount anywhere on them when they first came out. And then I just really wasn't interested in more Sauvage, because everybody was wearing more Sauvage. But when I smelled this Sauvage Elixir, I really kind of went crazy for that one. What were your thoughts on that?
This one is stronger and lasts a long time. Right.
And here's the thing with this one. It really doesn't have anything in common with the Sauvage. The notes in it are really, really different. So I think basically it has in common, it has like patchouli and vetiver, I think, that are the common notes with it. There are some things that are similar, like cinnamon, licorice, labdanum are kind of mixed in between there. One of the original Eau de Toilette has labdanum. The newer one here has cinnamon and licorice. And so I think that takes over that sort of incensey, spicy sort of a smell. But in general, I don't think that they don't have the same notes. It's a stretch to call this one really Sauvage. It's not like a more concentrated version of any of the other Sauvages. It's kind of a thing all on its own. So yeah, the notes in this one: nutmeg, cinnamon, cardamom, grapefruit, lavender, licorice, sandalwood, amber, patchouli, and vetiver. This one hangs kind of closer to you, but when you're within a couple feet of somebody that's wearing it, you definitely notice it. It's not overpowering though. It lasts a long time.
Yes, a long time.
Yeah, most things I'm kind of a fan of spraying heavily, like, at least 6 or so sprays for most things, if not more. Some things like a lot more. But with this one, 2 or 3 will usually do plenty. More than that, you might get kind of cloying to where people are wishing you would step away. And not because it smells bad, just because it's a lot.
And it's quite sweet.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's sweet, and it's a definitely a pleaser, but it's also one that's not as versatile. Not an office scent, not an everyday scent sort of a thing. It's sort of a special occasion sort of a scent. Okay, now we're going to move on. Those were all men's scents, and of course, women can wear some of those too. Some of them are a little more challenging for women than men. This one says it's marketed for women, but a lot of things that I see, men like this one too. This is from the Privé line, and these sort of come and go. They'll be out for a few years, and then they're just gone. This one came out in 2020, Rouge Trafalgar. This is a chipper, fruity fragrance, and it has raspberry, strawberry, cherry, and mandarin orange as top notes, so it's a really delicious, fruity sort of a smell. Mm-hmm. Then it has, for middle, it has black currant and grapefruit, and a base of musk and patchouli. So it has a kind of a earthy, soft, fuzzy sort of a base that stays with you, but all of these nice citruses that are kind of juicy, but also kind of like soft and fluffy, almost like creamy or something. It's a really beautiful scent, and I fell in love with this one when I got a sample of it and had to get a bigger bottle of it. Did you enjoy this one when you used this one? Yeah. Do you feel like it's too feminine for it to be a unisex?
Well, I don't really believe in masculine and feminine scents and stuff like that, but traditionally it would fall under feminine.
Yeah, I think it leans feminine, but I think that a guy can definitely wear this one if he wants to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not one of those that's overtly feminine, but it leans feminine, but it also kind of feels sort of unisex, if you want it to be that. Definitely, this is a really nice one. Like I said, it's from the Privé line, and this one's been out for a couple years or so, and if you're interested in it, probably should grab a bottle of it sometime in the next year or so, because these tend to go offline without any announcement, and usually about 5 years is their run time. So it's nearing that time where it might start getting pretty scarce.
Okay.
All right. Now this one is
definitely feminine.
Definitely feminine.
Very overt.
Yeah. Yeah, this one I didn't really get for me to wear so much as that somebody I knew wore this one, and I always liked the smell of it, and so I got it more out of to remember somebody by, just from the scent and stuff. This one, J'adore, is really famous for its jasmine notes.
Yeah.
And for a long time running, this one was pretty much acclaimed as one of the best jasmine scents out there. Now, there are a lot of J'adore flankers. Some of them kind of keep with the DNA of the jasmine. Some of them depart from that. Just because it is a J'adore scent doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a jasmine-centric scent, but the original J'adore was one of the ones that really kind of pushed the jasmine line. This one came out in 1999, and the top notes are pear, melon, magnolia, peach, mandarin, orange, and bergamot. Then middle notes, jasmine, lily of the valley, tuberose, freesia, rose, orchid, plum, and violet. Base notes with musk, vanilla, blackberry, and cedar.
Very floral.
Very floral, and it rounds out nicely, I think, with some of the berries and the woody base notes. But yeah, very floral and nice kind of some nice sort of fruity notes to make the floral not overpowering. Sometimes floral scents to me feel almost like sort of almost sickening or cloying, but this one doesn't have that. It has a nice softness to it.
Okay.
All right. Okay. And last, and
Definitely not the
I would
least.
definitely say not the least. And this one has a little story I kind of like to let people know about, because so many people don't know about this scent. This one is Poison by Dior. Came out on July 4th, actually, 1985.
Yes, it smells like tuberose.
Yeah, this one is a very oriental smell. That was how it was launched, is with like kind of mysterious Orient type smells. This one has top notes, and very prominent, I think, plum and wild berries, anise, rosewood, and then middle notes of tuberose, incense, honey, cinnamon, opopanax. Doesn't everybody need some opopanax now and then? Carnation, jasmine, orange, African orange flower, and rose. And then base notes of vanilla, amber, sandalwood, musk, heliotrope, vetiver, and cedar. So the thing I wanted to say as far as like a little story is we've talked before about YSL opium, right?
Yeah.
So opium came out in I think it was the early 80s, and it was a wild success here in the United States. And a lot of the marketing of a fragrance is kind of the concept that they put behind it. Sometimes some things with the bottle and so on, all these little things that they do to hype people up about it and get people's mental imagery and stuff stirred up about it and what they're going to expect, and then hopefully deliver a fragrance that really is pleasing. So in the early 80s, Dior was not having a big success in their makeup and cosmetics here in the United States. And they saw that YSL, Yves Saint Laurent, was doing super well with their opium release. So they went on a mission then to come up with a really beguiling scent to rival and kind of parallel the marketing sort of a mystique of opium. They spent about 5 years coming to market with it. They had independent fragrancers or perfumers come up with about 800 different contestants for them to pick from. Yeah, seriously, it's a lot. And finally, they copyrighted the name Poison, and the bottle is supposed to be like a kind of like a forbidden fruit. It's sort of like an apple or something. It's supposed to make you think of somewhat of like an apple and like a forbidden fruit or something. And they copyrighted the name Poison, and they did all kinds of marketing and stuff for this, and they went with a really out there sort of a combination that once again sort of paralleled opium in it being an oriental type of a fragrance. And they went with the really heavy notes of like the plum, the incense, and things like that to make this one like a big beguiling sort of a scent. And when they started marketing it, it just went berserk. It just went wild. And 5 different flanker lines came off of the original Poison, and of each of those there's probably at least an EDT and a Parfum or EDT, Eau de Parfum version. So it really kicked off quite a fragrance line for them. Nowadays, Poison is not that popular of a line. It's kind of like they've moved on from it and gone on to other things. But this one is really worth going back and revisiting. certainly not a guy's fragrance. This is definitely very feminine in its smell. And I got this basically because, once again, it reminded me of somebody who wore this, that this always brings back memories and stuff. And so I got it before, it started getting too hard to get. But it's really an enjoyable fragrance. And if you're a lady and you like some of these oriental sorts of smells, try this one. The original one is really the best, I think. The others, they're good, but just nothing can beat this one. Just like, nothing in the flanker lines beats the original. Just like the original Opium is like one of the most amazing fragrances that was out in its time, and certainly of all the different lines that came afterwards.
Okay.
So that's it for us.
So I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dior Experience, and we'll be back for some more episodes. Till then, bye-bye.
Bye.